Can you hear me?
Hello, Pranav. Yes, Maharaj, we can hear you. Thanks for joining in, Maharaj.
Okay.
Maharaj, we are already there, so you can start when you are comfortable. I'll go on mute, or I'll hand it over to you.
Okay. Yeah. Om Namasri Yatirajaya Vivekananda Suguraye Satchit Sukha Swarupaya Swamine Tapaharine. So welcome to all of you. We'll be continuing our Raj Yoga class. Raj Yoga of Patanjali's, which is based on Patanjali's Yoga Sutras. And as you all know, that Swami Vivekananda wrote an elaborate introduction to the book. It is one of the few compositions of Swami Vivekananda which he dictated. They were not recorded lectures. It was Miss Ellen Waldo who recorded whatever he said, and in shorthand, of course, and it was then converted into a book which he himself edited. So you may say this is one of the original sources, a series of recorded, you may not say talks, because he used to, depending on his mood, Swami Vivekananda would dictate, he would comment upon the various sutras of Patanjali, and then his own commentary based on his own spiritual experience. That makes it more valuable than all the other commentaries. They are not just scholarly commentaries. It's a subject very dear to him, the topic of meditation, which he called as Raj Yoga. There's a reason why he named this book which he wrote, or you may say which he dictated, and it was published later on in 1896 first in England, that is London, and then it was the other edition was also published from New York later on, and of course India much later. But the first edition of Raj Yoga was published in London in 1896. So this was, you may say, something that he left behind. As you all know, in the previous class also I mentioned this, that his Jnana Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Karma Yoga lectures were recorded either in shorthand by Goodwin or somebody else, and they were compiled together in book form. So they were lectures delivered over a period of time, either in London or in New York or other parts of America, and then they were compiled into a book. Whereas this book was specifically written and very systematically, Swami Vivekananda wanted to present before the world, before he said, that I have to leave behind something very concrete. And the book Raj Yoga, actually the word Raj Yoga can be a bit confusing, because Raj Yoga is also a part of Hatha Yoga in a limited sense. We are not talking of Rajoga, that Rajoga, because that is a technical term for a subdivision of Hatha Yoga, which is a limited, you may say, view of this great word Rajoga. The Rajoga is a part of the different yogas which come under Hatha Yoga, which deals with mostly asanas, pranayama, and other things. But according to Patanjali's Ashtanga Yoga, there are 8, as you all know, there are 8 steps. Ashtanga means 8-stepped or 8-bodied yoga. So they start with yama, niyama, asana, pranayama, which are the first 4. Then pratyahara, dharana, and the 7th step in this is dhyana. The word meditation, which is so commonly used these days, is the 7th step in Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, which requires a lot of prior preparation to even reach the state of meditation. And then, of course, the 8th step, which is the culmination of Raj Yoga, is Samadhi. So that is the Ashtanga Yoga of Patanjali. But Swami Vivekananda presented it in a very scientific and systematic way, because he wanted to leave. There were so many misconceptions about this great science of, I would call it a science, not just a belief based on dogma, because it is a scientific approach to spirituality if there ever was. So he believed that he has to leave behind an authentic explanation of Patanjali's Yoga Sutras in a very scientific and modern way, so that the Western world, the people of the Western world, do not fall prey to superstitious ideas that were passing in those days, and even today it continues, unfortunately. In the name of yoga, so many things are being preached, practiced all over the world by various people. So you may say this is one of the most authentic works on Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, which is, as I said, a scientific way to approach true spirituality. What spirituality is, what is the goal of life, according to the great science of yoga, which is complementary to Vedanta. Vedanta provides a theoretical framework, and there are Vedantic teachers who also give certain practical tips. Not certain, that there is a definite sadhana according to Vedanta, which has been practiced for a very long time. Though yoga technically as a philosophy doesn't form part of the Vedanta philosophy, there are 6 different distinct systems of philosophy, of which Sankhya is one, Yoga is one, Vedanta is one. Vedanta again is divided into Purva Mimamsa and Uttar Mimamsa. That is the Karma Kanda, that is the ritualistic part of Vedanta, which was one school who believed that all the rituals of the Vedas are sufficient to achieve the highest. Whereas the Uttar Mimamsa, that is that portion of the Vedas which dealt with the knowledge portion of the Vedas, was popularly known as Vedanta, which comprises of the study of Upanishads, as they are popularly known. So Upanishads, Vedanta, according to the 6th system of philosophy, is not apparently compatible with the yoga system. Each one of these systems are distinct. If you read the commentaries of Shankaracharya, he would consider yoga to be an inferior practice, because he wanted Vedanta to be established. So there's nothing wrong in that. Vedanta has evolved an own system of sadhana or upasana, whereas yoga believes is, you may say, partly dualistic in nature, because they believe in 2 entities, as against Advaita Vedanta, which believes that there is only one reality. Whereas here they accept Purusha and Prakriti, the two aspects of the same reality, as distinct. And as I mentioned in my previous class, the goal of yoga is to separate Purusha and Prakriti. It looks rather strange that yoga actually means Viyoga. According to Patanjali, he has defined it that way. Viyoga with respect to what? That unfortunately, according to the yoga philosophers, the changing Prakriti, the world of change as we see, the world of transformation that we see in front of us, and we are ourselves involved in that, which is the cause of all suffering, which again is quite similar to what Buddhism preaches. So there's a lot of similarity between Sankhya Yoga and Sankhya, the philosophy of Sankhya upon which yoga is based, and also Buddhism. Because Buddhism, they say Buddha initially studied under a lot of Sankhya gurus or teachers. So there is that Buddhism is a very rational religion which does not presuppose the concept of even God. Not that they are atheists, but they say the concept of God is not necessary because we are dealing with our minds, and it is the mind which is the cause of all of our suffering. And to solve that problem by controlling our thoughts, by controlling our actions, by right ethical conduct, is the sum and substance of Buddhism. So also yoga, if you find Patanjali's yoga, Swami Vivekananda points this out, that before we reach the seventh stage in Patanjali's yoga, which is dhyana, which is extremely difficult, because it will be clear as we discuss what Rajoga is. He mentions that yama and niyama, which form the ethical part of the 8 steps that lead towards the culmination of real yoga. Yoga as it should be understood, not the yoga that is practiced. So yoga that is practiced has something to do with mostly asanas and pranayama, which have fascinated the whole world because they are happy if they if they attain their goal of good health and some kind of mental peace by regulating the prana. But they are just 3rd and 4th steps on the way. After that, the real yoga begins. So, Swami Vivekananda decided to put all these ideas in very simple English for the Western world, because these sutras, first of all, they are brief. All the sutras of Patanjali, they are not only brief, it is extremely difficult to understand the actual import of what these Yoga Sutras convey with the help of the Sanskrit commentaries that were available during Swami Vivekananda's time. In fact, he did consult 3 of the commentaries. One was Vyasa's famous Patanjali's, a commentary on Patanjali's Sutras, which is known as Mahabhashya. And then we have, there are 2 other commentaries which were not so well known. Bodhayana's Vritti on Patanjali's Yoga Sutras. So people had to understand the Yoga Sutras, which were very brief, terse phrases, very difficult to understand. And without the help of a Sanskrit commentary, it was impossible to understand. And that explains the reason why Patanjali's yoga was reduced to simply the first 2 or 3 or 4 steps, because asanas, which is defined in the Yoga Sutras, is not given any importance at all by Patanjali. If you see, of all the sutras, most of the sutras deal with pratyahara, and after that dharana, dhyana, and then samadhi. So the Patanjali's emphasis is on the last 4 steps, Whereas all that passes in the name of yoga is concerned with the first 4 steps. Even people don't bother about the first 2 steps, which is the ethical part of yoga, yama and niyama. They're very strict disciplines which have to be followed even before one approaches the concept of sadhana, of asana. That is the 3rd step, which simply means that position which will enable you to be steady, at least physically. Mentally, we cannot hope to be steady. Our minds are so restless. But at the same time, if our body also is not restful or cannot be steady, if we are not even in control of our physical body and sit for long periods of time or sit in a particular posture for a long period of time, then it is very difficult to control the mind. So the only purpose of asana is not good health, which is of course a part of Hatha Yoga, which is another science. We will not discuss that. Hatha Yoga elaborately describes how different postures help you to regulate the prana within the body. Prana are the life forces, so that you live a healthy life. That is almost all that it can achieve. And of course, it will help in the next 4 steps. But trying to overdo this asana and pranayama will not serve the purpose, as Swami Vivekananda will point out in his introduction itself. He gives there is an elaborate introduction which we will discuss now, based on Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, which is the second part of the book. In fact, the first part of the book, he has cleared a lot of superstitions associated with this great science of Raj Yoga. Again, it is Patanjali's yoga, but he calls it Raj Yoga in a different sense. Not in the sense of Hatha Yoga. He says Raj Yoga means the royal path. Raja means royal. Why is it a royal path? Because after explaining what Karma Yoga is, Bhakti Yoga and Jnana Yoga is, through his 3 other books, which are compilations of his talks, he says this yoga is very essential because it deals with the topic of your mind, which is involved in Karma Yoga, which is involved in Bhakti Yoga, which is controlling the emotions and using it in a useful way, is Bhakti Yoga. Controlling your thought currents, your thinking, your cognition in a proper way and channelizing it for your own benefit is Jnana Yoga. And then that is thinking, feeling, and Karma Yoga is proper control of the willpower that we have, which is the 3rd faculty a human mind has, thinking, feeling, and willing. So 3 yogas deal with the 3 faculties of the mind. Thinking is the domain of Jnana Yoga, thinking, the power of thinking, analyzing, discriminating between real and unreal. All these things come under Jnana Yoga, the path of Jnana Yoga. The next yoga is Bhakti Yoga, where the human emotions are channelized and directed towards a personal God, resulting in spiritual progress. That is Bhakti Yoga. So thinking, feeling, and then willpower. A human being has tremendous willpower if he decides to channelize it and use it. So intense working with some goal in mind. There is a big science of Karma Yoga as well, which you can get in Swami Vivekananda's Karma Yoga, where the willpower, the will to act, because the will to think and will to feel, they are there. But unless the will to act is there, Karma Yoga helps to actually put into practice all the theoretical concepts that you might have formed, the feelings that you have for your personal God, the idea of supernatural or idea of the supreme reality which you have in Jnana Yoga. Even to practice those, you need some kind of willpower, some kind of determination, some kind of discipline. So all the 3 yogas deal with one faculty of the mind. Human mind has these three faculties: thinking, feeling, and willpower. So all the three are used in the three yogas. So what about Raj Yoga? Which faculty of the mind? Is there a fourth faculty which is not discussed in Western psychology, which is a faculty, very much a faculty of the mind? In fact, it is one of the most important faculties. Indian philosophers, or maybe Indian yoga practitioners or yoga scientists, they discovered another faculty other than these three, which generate the energy to enable thinking, to enable feeling, to enable the willpower. And that is known as the power that is generated by controlling the mind, which is the foundation of yoga psychology and also Buddhism. So though Buddhism gives a lot of importance to karma yoga by right actions, right ethical actions, moral actions, and doing good to the world, doing good to the world without any selfish motive. So all those things are there in other religions as well, and Bhakti Yoga is there in almost all religion, because whether you believe in a personal God or some other form of God, devotion to that God, emotionally being attached to that God, whether it is Buddha, Christ, or any Krishna, Rama, and all those personal gods whom we worship, involves a lot of feeling, because when we consider them to be the human representatives of the eternal truth, or at least symbolical representations of that eternal truth, we try to approach that reality with our feeling. We feel that as Christians, we have to love Christ. As followers of Krishna, we have to love Krishna. So that Ishta which involves a lot of emotion helps us to connect with that reality through the faculty of emotion. So we connect to reality through the faculty of thinking. We connect to that same reality through the faculty of emotion, that is Bhakti Yoga, and also through our actions, dedicating all our actions, as Bhagavan Sri Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita. If you can't meditate on me, if you can't pray to me, if you can't do anything, which yesterday we discussed in the Bhagavad Gita class, that Arjuna, Sri Krishna is talking to Arjuna and is anticipating that Arjuna will say that this is difficult. Sitting quietly and meditating is difficult. Praying with devotion is difficult. I am an active man. I am just, I believe in action. Very active people, they have a very strong willpower with which they perform their actions. So what shall I do? For him, Krishna says, if you are unable to do this, then at least do all the work that you do for my sake. Dedicate it to me, and through Karma Yoga also you will reach me. So that is what Gita says. But then in Dhyana Yoga, the 6th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, we will find this idea of meditation. The 4th faculty is discussed directly by Sri Krishna, that to generate willpower, to generate devotion, to even have that thinking capacity, you need a strong mind. And that scattered mind will not enable you to do either Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, or Jnana Yoga. So the goal of yoga, that is Raj Yoga, according to Swamiji and according to Patanjali also, is to control the mind, reduce the thoughts, all the vrittis, the mental waves. If they are focused on one point, then their capacity to enhance your personality or enhance your performance of the other yogas improves drastically. That is why they say the example Patanjali gives is like there is a flow of water. You try to put a dam across it. you store that water, and when you store that water, when you allow it to flow, you will find that it creates a lot of force, because that accumulated water has acquired tremendous potential energy, which when the gates are opened of the dam, the flow is not only powerful, but it is one pointed. You can direct it wherever you want. So similar idea is used in Raj Yoga, in Patanjali's yoga, that when you restrain the mental thoughts, try to reduce the chitta vrittis. So these chitta vrittis, the vrittis, that is the thought waves that are constantly flowing, they have to be restrained, they have to be controlled. That is why the second sutra says, yoga chitta vritti nirodha. Yoga means, the very definition of yoga is that the vrittis of the mind have to be concentrated, focused, so that they generate tremendous spiritual power, which can be used for all the other three yogas and also Raj Yoga. That is why Swami Vivekananda has given this name Raj Yoga. It is the king amongst yogas. There are 4 yogas, but without meditation, there is no. The other 3 yogas are simply not possible. So Raj Yoga is the main, you may say, spiritual practice which will enable other yogas to succeed. Of course, all of the 4 yogas have to be performed together. It's not that you will be emotional all the time, that you will be thinking all the time, or you will be having having the desire to work all the time. So you have to divide your life in such a way that you use all these faculties in a harmonious way, but it has to be guided by at least spending some portion of the day in controlling thoughts, as demonstrated in Patanjali's Yoga Sutras. Because without that controlled mind, none of the yogas, even our secular pursuits, will not succeed. You need some kind of concentration to even succeed in our material secular life. So Raj Yoga forms the core of all the main yoga amongst all these 4. That is why Swamiji has given it the name Raj Yoga, the king of all yogas. And he also, in his talk on Raj Yoga, some of the other talks, not this book, he speaks of psychology, the yoga psychology, as the king of all sciences. He said all other sciences can be mastered, but without mastering, your education should begin with the king of sciences, mastering which you can easily master the other yogas, the other faculties. So that is why he has given this name. So far as this name is concerned, the word Raj Yoga means yoga psychology is the king of sciences, and hence it is also the king of all the 4 yogas, the different ways to develop human personality. So now we'll come to the preface. There is a nice introduction which Swami Vivekananda himself wrote. He knew that you can't just start discussing the sutras, which for a Western reader or for a new reader, a new person who's approaching Patanjali's yoga for the first time, it will be extremely difficult to understand these sutras. So there is a need for a introduction which forms almost 1/3 of the whole book. Swami Vivekananda's Raj Yoga, if you see, he has given such an elaborate introduction, which we are going to discuss today. He begins with no assumptions, no dogmas, like other religions. You have to believe. You have to believe because my Bible says, my Vedas say, my Upanishads say. And if you force a person to say that he or she has to accept certain things, because my holy scripture says so, then it is not scientific. A scientific approach doesn't allow you to start with the dogmas, with theories. You start with postulates, you propose something, try to experiment and show that it is true, and true many times over a period of time. When you perform those experiments, you come to certain conclusions based on which you then formulate a theory. So the scientific approach would be to propose, even if you propose something as a postulate, you have to show logically, analytically, and experientially, that is through experience, that all the things that we have said, all the sutras that will come, will follow a certain trend. And you, at any stage, every human being, irrespective of his caste, creed, religion, ethnicity, he should have the freedom to practice this and experiment whether they are true or not. That is what science does. Science doesn't insist on accepting blindly. They ask you to follow the scientific method in whatever science they study, whether it is physical science, astronomical science, any science which has developed this way, that if you postulate something, if Newton postulates the laws which are now known as the laws of motion of Newton, he experimentally verified that, and it was experimentally verified in the actual situation, and then only these became laws. Laws do not just laws are not formed just because some XYZ person states it. He has to prove it. So also Swami Vivekananda asked this question, and Swami Vivekananda asks this question, that can yoga stand the test of scientific inquiry? The rules that we use to establish certain truths in science, can we use the same rules and say that Patanjali's yoga is true because this can be experimentally proved? That is what Swami Vivekananda says. But what is this science? Is it a physical science that we can go to the laboratory and experiment? No doubt he says there is a need for systematic study. So every study he approaches, so scientifically approaches, he says there are extraordinary phenomena which we call supernatural, which we observe in this world. We cannot deny them. Just as we cannot deny cyclones, we cannot deny earthquakes. They are day-to-day events, or maybe they are events which humankind has observed. You cannot deny the capacity of fire to burn, water to flow, and then you formulate laws based on what you observe in the world around you. So if there are cases where certain supernatural events are happening, you can't just say that they are all superstitions. You have to scientifically analyze them, and if you find that they are not true, then you reject them. But you just can't say that all these phenomena which certain human beings known as yogis, when they demonstrate, when they practice it as a result of hard work, they practice it. It's not that yoga can be achieved or the science of yoga could be understood and even practiced in a day. It requires persistent effort, which we'll see now. So it requires a systematic study, just as any scientist would do. Years and years of study. Finally, you might do some doctorate. It will take so many years, and we can't expect yoga to be studied in a day. So there is a need for systematic study. That is what he starts this introduction with. So if one is prepared, then we can start this discussion on Raj Yoga. That is what he says. And then he says, we'll follow the same method. What is the method science follows? First study, investigate, and then generalize it into principles. It's a very simple method. Everywhere it is followed. You see, Newton saw that the apple was falling. Many people see, throughout history, we have seen objects falling down. it is Newton who said, okay, this phenomena of falling down, I am generalizing and calling it the force of gravity or the gravitational law. The law came afterwards. The phenomena existed even before. It was some scientist who says that let us call this gravitational law, then let us find out what are the laws. We can't just say it is magic that somebody is throwing objects from heaven. We don't say that. Because science has told us that if certain phenomena is observed in the external nature or even in our minds, psychology is the science of studying our mental waves, which is a fact. Every day we think, every day we have depression, every day we have joy, every day our mind wavers. So it is a phenomena, just as any other phenomenal wind blowing and the sun shining, day turning into night, night turning into day. So also our different sleep, deep sleep, dream, and waking states, they are alternating in our life. So should we not investigate what these things are? Why do they happen? Why do we take those things for granted? So Swamiji says Raj Yoga means you have to make a systematic study, investigate, and finally generalize. As Newton made certain experiments and then finally said this is the law of gravitational energy. This is what gravitation, the different objects, they are attracted to each other, and the force that attracts them is the force of gravity. Then he formulated the different laws of motion, how objects move in the universe. So everything was based on experimental study, investigation, and general laws, which are holding true even today. So here, Swamiji questions and says there is another phenomena which we observe throughout history, which is very common. It's not that a few people only practice this. People pray. The Christians pray, the Muslims pray, everybody seems to be praying. But has anyone asked this question? Who answers our prayers, if at all? If the prayers are answered, who's answering the prayers? We are scientific about everything. We are scientific about our diet. We are scientific about what we wear, the different things that we deal with in our daily life. But when it comes to Raj Yoga or comes to spiritual practice, why don't we follow the same method? Whom are we praying to and who is answering our prayers? Swamiji starts with a simple religious practice which is most common all over the world. Many traditions may not meditate, but they will pray. They will go to any religious place of worship they believe in, and they believe that somehow the prayer is answered. So the question is, who answers the prayer? Is it some being outside who answers or something within? Who answers this prayer? Suppose I am miserable, I go and pray in the church or in a temple or any other holy place, and I come away with a little bit of peace. Who has actually answered the prayers? So, Swami Vivekananda says, let us explore. So he makes some postulates, and later on you will find postulates in the sense unproved theories. Theories, they have not yet become theories, but he says, instead of thinking that the prayer is answered from above or some being above the clouds who in some mysterious way gives you what you need or what you want or what you desire for. The children may be convinced with this explanation, but grown-up people, especially people, if they claim that they have a scientific approach to life, they will not accept. Said, what is the proof that there is some being? Have you seen him? How is my prayer answered? And why is it not answered all the time? Newton will not say that the law of gravitation is applicable now. After 10 years, it is not applicable. It's an eternal truth. Only thing he has formulated it. So whether the prayer is answered from above or prayer is answered from within us, our own personalities, deep within, that is the question to be answered. Then another postulate in the introduction, he says, each soul each soul means is jiva, the being that we call as me or my personality, my body, my mind, the small unit that is me, as against the world around me. I don't say the world and me are the same. There is a distinction, clear distinction. This is me and this is the world, and this is how I interact with that world. So similarly, when you pray, this is me who is praying. There is a God above or inside, wherever he is. We don't know for now. But I keep praying. And somehow my prayers are answered. Sometimes they are answered, sometimes they are not answered. So what is the science behind this prayer? So Swami Vivekananda gives another postulate that according to Vedanta, according to Sankhya, according to Patanjali's yoga also, we'll come to that sutra later, the personality which you call your own soul, the Jivatma, is a conduit for infinite power and knowledge which is within. Now, this is the assumption they begin with. Let us see whether it is true. So, there is endless power within, endless power to have endless desires also. It works both ways. A person like Buddha, he has manifested that endless power within and reached a state which he calls nirvana or moksha, total freedom. But there are others who have used that same power within to have endless desires. And he is struggling to fulfill each one of them, thinking that one day will come when all his desires will be fulfilled. But then unfortunately he finds that once he attains something, there is some other desire left. So he wants, and by the time he realizes that there is not enough power to fulfill all my desires in this life. Okay, so Hindus propose scientifically, if you say if your desires are unfulfilled, you will be born again. You will have to take another body. There's no other way. That is how the law of karma, which is also, we'll come to that later. It's not discussed in this introduction, but the endless desires which human being has, some of which are fulfilled. Obviously, everybody wants all his desires to be fulfilled. Like some magic lamp, Aladdin's magic lamp. Then he tells the ghost, I want a building. He gets a building. And then he asks for something else. He gets it. Then this person who had this is a nice story told by Swami Vivekananda, that this ghost was a strange type of ghost. He could do anything for you. Of course, it is a story, but it's a very nice story which shows the futility of our endless desires. So he prayed to God and he got some power with which he could tell the ghost what to do. So he built a palace for him. Whatever desire came to his mind, he wanted food, he wanted good health, he got everything. And then he wanted to be peaceful now, enjoy what I have got. But this ghost would not let him. He said, no, you have to give me some other job. I can't stop. You may stop, but I'm going to kill you if you don't give me. So then this person is perplexed. What shall I ask? My desires are running out. And whatever he says, within no time, this ghost is fulfilling it. Finally, he goes to a very wise man. He goes to a sage who is meditating and sitting. Then he said, the answer is very simple. If you want to get rid of this person, this ghost who is constantly asking you, you tell him, go on the street and catch hold of a dog. And his tail is curly. You try to straighten it. So then the ghost goes, and as the story goes, the ghost goes and tries to straighten the dog's tail, and he leaves it. Again, it goes back to its original shape. So the moral of the story is, this world is like a dog's curly tail. We want to straighten it, but it never stays. It will remain. It won't change for us. The world will not change because I have a desire that it should change. It will remain like the dog's curly tail. It will remain curly, and no matter how much you think you will try to straighten it out, you can't do so. The endless desires that come from within, most of which will not be fulfilled in this life, maybe you will try to fulfill it in the next life. That is how you go transmigrate according to Hindu philosophy. The law of karma says that if you have these desires, you have to fulfill it. So you will try take up another body. So according to yoga, Swamiji says, there is no supernatural being. I mean, we don't have to assume that it is some supernatural being who is fulfilling my wishes or desires. We have to analyze this thing. What is this world in which I am? What is the composition of this world? And what are these desires? Where do they come from? If they come from within, how do they arise? What actually is the nature of this desire? Why one person doesn't have desires? Another person is full of desires. One is very restless. The other person is apparently very peaceful, because he is happy, content with whatever he has. And then this restless person thinks that, why is God made me so restless, so depressed, so much of ups and downs in my life? He doesn't realize the cause is within. That is what Swamiji says. The gross world, the restlessness in the outside gross physical world, is a result of the restlessness of the mind which is subtle, which is within. Our sense organs have two components according to Vedanta or according to yoga. Human being is composed of a gross body, which is known as Sthula Sharira, the gross body, the physical body, with all the energies that is helping it to run, the circulation, heartbeat, breathing. All these forces are somehow, when they are in harmony, make a body very healthy. He is able to live his life. So this gross body has something that runs it. That is known as the subtle body. And mind is part of the subtle body. Subtle means their impact is seen in the physical, but otherwise the mind can be known through your own mind. Your own mind can know. Your own mind, a part of your mind knows the other part of your mind, whether it is happy, whether it is depressed, whether it is joyful, whether it is concentrated, not concentrated. So that shows that in the subtle body, the mind of which mind is a part is still flexible, it's still transformational. Just as the body gets transformed, you grow, you become old, you lose all your energy, you become weak. Maybe you say the brain is slowly forgetting things, you get dementia. There's so many things which happen, transform in a human body, because the prana also slowly doesn't have that same kind of energy left. So just as the physical nature over a period of time, it becomes weak, it transforms itself. So also the mind, they say, can be transformed. Either it can be made strong or it can be made, if you just allow it to run the way it wants, then it will become weak like the body. And then age. So there is also this mental age. The same enthusiasm, a 25-year-old person, that same mind will not be shared by an old man who is pessimistic. Perhaps he is pessimistic unless he has taken care of his mind, which is always growing, which is always helping him to become more and more mentally alert, discriminative. So now we'll come to the introduction. Swami Vivekananda, if you see in his introduction, before he starts the introduction, he says There is a nice quote of Swami Vivekananda, which is often quoted in many books, but it forms part of this Raj Yoga. In the beginning, he wrote 5 or 6 sentences where he says, which is published in front of Raj Yoga. In all the editions, it is published. So he says, each soul, that is, each jiva, is potentially divine. That God which you are searching outside is within, but it is potential. It is not expressing itself. That is why we feel limited, we feel powerless. If God is within, then why are we not all powerful like God? Because we are not able to manifest that. And the goal is to manifest that divine or that eternal truth which is within. How can it be done? That is the second part. Each soul is potentially divine, and the goal is to manifest this divinity within. So how do you do it? By controlling nature, external and internal. Now this is a very important idea. He has summarized all human effort, all human sciences in this one line. That divinity is there within, but unfortunately we do not see ourselves and other people as divine. The reason being is that we are not able to control nature, Prakriti, external as well as internal. What do you mean by external nature? External nature is, nature has so many elements which make it so difficult to live. So what does human being do? He has developed the sciences to enable us to conquer nature. If there is virus, we try to conquer it and see that it does not kill us. If there is a storm or if there is any natural calamity, any natural force, we try to control it. We try to survive in spite of those forces. So whether it is external nature, controlling which we have developed all our sciences, all our technology, whatever you see, is trying to control. Because nature is trying to put us down, external nature. It is making the climate very cold. So we invented heaters so that we can stay warm. So in a way, we have controlled nature, external nature. Nature wanted you to shiver in the cold, and which humanity did for a long time till he invented fire, and then he decided to warm himself first by burning fire. Then he invented other things, burning gas and burning other materials. Now he is more or less, you can say, is controlled the way we can deal with this cold. So slowly we are trying to control nature. We can control our inability to move long distances by just taking a flight. We have invented it. We have controlled the nature, saying that in the long past, people had to walk. There was a limit. We could not travel 100 miles. We could not even hope to cross continents. Ships were invented. Then planes were invented. So somehow every effort that we are doing to develop science and technology is to trying to control this nature. So in both cases, you see, and then we try to control internal nature. What do you mean by controlling internal nature? Our nature is not uniform. We are in bad moods, we are in good moods, sometimes we are lazy, sometimes we are active, then we really find it difficult. How can we control ourselves? How can we discipline? Then you discipline the mind. So, whether you are controlling external nature as a scientist, it involves the mind. The mental powers of the scientist have discovered all these things. So also when you try to control inner nature, you use certain techniques which are known as yoga. The techniques that we use are enabling us to control our internal nature, which external nature cannot do. The external nature is asking us to, is already giving us so much trouble, our external nature, that most of us, as part of our education, do not even have the time to know what this internal nature. We live with it. We live with our depressions, we live with our anxieties, we live with our worries. And if some yoga, one who follows Patanjali's yoga comes and tells you have to control your mind, otherwise these troubles will be there. You have controlled external nature, you have created air conditioning, you have created heating, and you have controlled at least part of the nature. A lot of things you have controlled outside, but what about your own mind? Who's going to help you to control it? So controlling internal nature is something which our mind has to do. Of course, you can take help. As we take help of other objects, other people to control external nature, we make use of machines, we make use of so many things. So also we try to make use of our own mental resources, our own physical body by sitting quietly, by making the body steady, and trying to control this restless mind. So that is the subject of the study. So it is a scientific study because if you want, in both cases, the instrument that you use to control external nature or internal nature, to manifest that divinity which is within, you use your mind. That is the sum and substance of Patanjali's, Swamiji's quote here. And also Patanjali, why Buddhism says as you think so you become. Why they give so much of importance. He said don't bother about the concept of God, whether God is this, that, this. It doesn't really matter because what really matters is your own mind. Your mind is responsible for your happiness, your mind is responsible for your sorrow. So why don't you take care of the mind? That is Buddhism, what Buddhism says. That is exactly what several centuries before Buddha, his Sankhya teachers and the yoga teachers must have told him. So Swamiji repeats that in modern English language. He says, how can you do this? The goal is to control external nature and internal nature. Then the control is complete. Then Purusha will be able to control the Prakriti. Prakriti means nature. External nature is also Prakriti, our internal nature is also Prakriti. So we have to control it and be one with the Purusha. That is what the goal of yoga. How do you do this? Do it by work or karma, doing action, willpower, you do it. Do it by worship, that is feeling, emotion, using it as another yoga. Do it by philosophy, jnana, knowing, intellect. So mind has many faculties. Why don't you use all of them? Or do it by psychic control, that is Raj Yoga, by restraining and controlling by one or more or all of these. You may do all the 4 yogas or you may practice one yoga. Obviously, human personality is such that he has a capacity to think, he has a capacity to feel, he has a capacity to do work, be active, and also he has a capacity to sit quietly, which is very rare again. The other 3 faculties we have developed. We think. Our education teaches us how to think logically. Our education also teaches us how to act based on this thinking and also how to control our emotions to a certain extent through prayer, through prayer and through other spiritual practices we do. But by psychic control or Raj Yoga, which is the core of this, all the 4 yogas, is not achievable unless one focuses on this. So he says, do this by one or more or all of this, and that is the whole of spirituality, that is the whole of religion. Other doctrines, dogmas, rituals, books, temples, or all other forms are secondary details. Whether you are a Christian, whether you are a Muslim, whether you are a Hindu, all of them have the same mind with these 4 faculties, and to control nature, external as well as internal, through this scientific principles of yoga is the whole goal of Raj Yoga, not only Raj Yoga, of the whole of spiritual life. So I think we are running short of time. So you can ask questions. I'll unmute. I'll increase my volume. A few questions based on what we discussed.
Yes. Thank you, Swamiji.
Yes.
If any of you have questions, please go ahead and ask.
Next question.
There seems to be no questions. Hello? Any questions, anybody?
No, you can read out if they have typed it. Some of them may not be able to unmute themselves.
Yes, sir. So request, if you people want to ask question, please unmute yourself and ask question.
Maharaj, namaskar.
Namaste.
I just one short question is that during the course of the deliberation, you use that the prana shakti is also diminishing. But what my understanding was that prana shakti which we have, which is actually operating everything, can be recharged through the yoga.
Yes, that is exactly what I said.
By connecting with the
Exactly. No, I didn't say it is diminishing for all people. I said the prana shakti which runs the body over a period of time, it's a natural law that what is created will be destroyed. I was saying that in context of trying to explain the law of karma, that the prana, when it leaves the body, we say a person is dead, isn't it? The prana shakti in that particular body, the overall prana shakti is controlled by the creator. So those who follow yoga, though they may not be able to fully control the Annamaya kosha and make it live long, though there are cases where the body also is kept very fit. But at the same time, the prana shakti definitely can be controlled, but there is a limitation because the way it acts upon the body. We'll come to that discussion on prana. There is one whole chapter, cosmic prana and individual prana, which has been discussed in great detail in the introduction, because Swamiji wanted to make this concept clear. So there is one individual prana which, if not cultivated or if not directed or if not controlled, can become weak over a period of time. It's just like the body. If you don't use it, if you don't exercise, or over a period of time, it's a natural law that it will disintegrate, and it will go towards old age, and many things will be lost. The brain cells will be lost irreversibly. They don't regenerate. So all these things, even prana, if it is not controlled, there is a limit to how much of the body you can control, because you can't live beyond a certain age. So that is why people focus more on the higher aspects. The mind can be, as I told you, not only prana, but even the mind of an old man, if he leaves it without practicing yoga, without tapping from the infinite resources of the universal mind, which is God, or you may say infinite prana, which is the universal prana, cosmic prana, if you don't tap, then you will fall short. So that is my point, that it's not that over a period of time, for people who neglect, the prana becomes weak, or at least their manifestation.
I have a different point now with your this thing. See, the thing is, you said that the prana, you have to connect and then get empowered and all this. Okay, that's fine. But the thing is, if I have the concept of aham or mahashmi, so there I am the Brahman, so I am already all powerful. Upon death, the sukshma sharir leaves the body, and the sthula sharir also falls dead, and sukshma sharir leaves the body, but the prana remains attached with the supreme soul, because I am aham mahashmi, so I am already.
Yeah. In theory, it is true, but do I really feel it? Then I should not complain when my prana becomes weak. You see, the thing is, the taste of the pudding is in eating it. That is a proverb, English proverb. So what happens is, it is absolutely true that Aham Brahmasmi, that I am the pure consciousness, I am the Purusha, and Prakriti has no. That is exactly what Raj Yoga aims at. To separate it aims a Viyoga, separation of prana, Purusha and Prakriti. So Purusha is the pure Aham Brahmasmi, or whatever you say. There are so many ways of expressing that. I am that infinite, eternal consciousness untouched by Prakriti. So Prakriti, in Prakriti, according to yoga, I'm talking of yoga philosophy, not Vedanta, but still, it is almost similar to Vedanta in the sense that this Prakriti, which is constituted of our physical bodies, the sum total of physical bodies known as Virat, the whole universal body, if you may say, the earth, the planets, or anything that is gross is the Virat. Then we have the prana, which is again a force. As you said, it may go, it may be again born in another body. When it gets a suitable body, that same prana, which is attached to your mind. But the soul is not so simple. It is very complex. It has ego, it has ahankar, it has the subtle buddhi, which it takes with it in the next birth. So in the next birth, the subtle things will go with you. So the prana is not lost in the sense, for this body it is lost, it has become weak. As you said, it's correct. When the person becomes old, when he finds that no matter what he does, his body is not allowing that strong prana to express itself. Its mind is, as Jesus said in the Bible, the spirit is strong, but the body, the flesh is weak. It's a beautiful quote which he says, spirit is strong. I know I am Brahmasmi, there's no problem. But when it comes to practice, what happens is a little bit of disturbance in the prana, I run to a doctor. I have to run because there's no other way. I think that the doctor will somehow restore that little prana which has got some imbalance and I have fallen sick. All these pranas, as you know, their imbalance according to Ayurveda is sickness. So when I fall sick, though the prana is there, I am connected to that infinite prana, definitely. But if I feel it, then no matter, like Sri Ramakrishna's life, he had cancer, he was suffering. He says, my mind is happy because it's not connected. So when we reach that state of disconnectedness, that Prakriti is separated, then Aham Brahmasmi can be realized as a genuine spiritual experience. That is what we are aiming. Whether you realize according to Vedanta that Aham Brahmasmi, or whether you realize your unity with the Purusha, which is same as Brahman, which is the unified consciousness which never changes. Body may change, prana may change, your mind may change, your all other shariras may change. Because they are part of Prakriti, and Prakriti's very nature is change. Prakriti is not Prakriti if she doesn't change. So that is why the Sankhya Yoga philosophy, Sankhya and Yoga, both of them accept that there are two realities. One is the Prakriti and all that comes under Prakriti, the body, the gross body, the prana, the mind, the buddhi and ahankara. Everything is a part of that Prakriti. So the problem is, since we cannot solve that problem, since the problem of strengthening our prana, it doesn't happen. So we disassociate with that, and that is known as Kaivalya. That is also known as Mukti, that is known as Moksha. So what you are saying, Aham Brahmasmi, is a stage when you reach Nirvikalpa Samadhi in Vedanta, or Kaivalya, the state of total liberation, separation of Purusha and Prakriti in the Yoga. That is what I'm saying. So these are very high states. We have to reach that state. Obviously, it is true. But if we could feel it from today, if Aham Brahmasmi is realized in 100% today, then there is no need for Raj Yoga. There is no need for any yoga, because anything that is going to happen is not going to impact me. That's a very, very high state. We have to pass through many stages, as you will see. Theoretically, yes. Theoretically, it's better to have a concept that I am Brahman. Very good.
Unless I have the concept, how can I think towards that?
Yeah, the concept is there. In yoga, the concept of Purusha has to come first. As you said, Aham Brahmasmi, if you don't have that concept, then what are you aiming at?
Yes.
If we don't aim at realizing our unity with Brahman or with Purusha in yoga, they also have a goal, but they say there are many steps. Ashtanga yoga, that is, they know that suddenly we can't jump. Though we may jump, we'll again come down. The prana will drag us down. Hunger will force us to go to the kitchen, and sickness will force us to go to the doctor. So they know, I mean, the Patanjali knows that it is a very, very long process. That is why he says there are 8 steps, very gradual. Yama Niyama itself will take a lifetime. Then you will do some asana which will make you steady. Then you will do pranayama. Then you will do pratyahara, which is also a very tough thing. Then you do dharana, attain a little bit of concentration. And when you finally get established in dhyana, which is the real goal of yoga, then you go into the last stage, which is samadhi, where the Vedantic Aham Brahmasmi will be realized. Okay? Yeah.
Small question.
Yes.
There is a small question. Who answers?
That was a very wonderful explanation. But
Yes.
the timeline is so long.
Yeah.
We have to keep sticking on to it.
Yes.
I
Yes.
remember
Almost 12:50.
So Swami, I was reading one letter from Swamiji where he was saying that there were days when he couldn't get food and he was tired and sick. He will almost like giving up, and then he will say that this body is not mine. I am not the body. I am the soul, and these things don't affect me.
Yeah.
So
But that is because his Guru's grace and because of his, obviously, his wonderful personality, he had this experience of Nirvikalpa Samadhi or Aham Brahmasmi when he was very young. So that is why he could say that. If we go and are hungry in the forest, I don't think we'll have the strength to say, no, I will not eat and I will just, by the force of our Atma Bal, I will just get up and start walking. We will be desperately searching for food, let me assure you. At least I
agree.
I will be.
I agree with you.
Yes. If I could do it, wonderful. That would be like Vivekananda. Yes. Yes. Okay. So it's nice to meet you at least once in a month. So
Yes, Maharaj.
we can take it slowly. There's no hurry and there's no question of finishing because it's a lifelong struggle, this Raj Yoga. You can't hurriedly say that I have finished Raj Yoga. We'll never finish Raj Yoga. We will always be trying to understand and practice Raj Yoga. Okay?
Okay. Thank you, Maharaj. Pranam. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Thank you. We'll close the call now then. Shanti.
Pranam Swamiji, pranams all.